If you're self-publishing a children's book or even an adult book with illustrations and images inside, it's important to know what file formats to use in your book. We're going to cover that right now. So my name is Travis Peterson and I'm a book designer. I focus mostly on children's books, but I also do books for all ages. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what file types or file formats to use for the illustrations or images in those books. I get this question asked a lot, so I thought I should cover it here. Now, the very first thing to remember, and probably the biggest rule in printing, is that you want the artwork or the illustrations, the images, to be in CMYK. If the book is being printed, it's so important to use CMYK images. So what is the difference between CMYK and RGB? Well, basically those are two different color profiles that are used in design. And RGB, which is red, green, and blue, is based on light. It's using red, green, and blue light to form all the colors of the rainbow. Now, that type of profile can result in much brighter, more vibrant colors than CMYK. CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which are the inks that are used in print design. And you just simply can't get some of the vibrant colors from ink that you can on a TV screen, for instance, or an iPad or a computer screen. So it's important to just remember that we always use CMYK in print, especially printing books and things of that nature. So the very first rule is make sure your illustrations, your images, whatever in your book are created in CMYK color profile. Now that can always be converted to RGB if needed, especially needed for things like ebook, but to convert RGB to CMYK can cause some problems, and that's because of those higher vibrancy colors that are available in RGB. When you try to convert that to CMYK, you can be disappointed in the results. Some of those colors, such as like emergency orange, won't be as vibrant. It'll be much duller and it just won't look good in print. So it's much easier to convert from CMYK to RGB than it is from RGB to CMYK. So the big point here is just use CMYK for your printed books. The next rule in printing is that all of the artwork inside a book, images, photographs, whatever, they all need to be 300 dpi. So dpi stands for dots per inch, and it's just sort of the resolution or the density of the image. Anything less than 300 dpi will print blurry or pixelated. So make sure that all the artwork at their final size is at least 300 dpi or greater. So what is the best file format or file type for the illustrations? Let's talk about that a little bit. You basically have three types of files that give you or I should say 4 types of files that give you the CMYK color format that you need, or the color profile that you need. That would be the original Photoshop layered file, a PDF, a Tiff, or a Jpeg file. Now, I used to ask for Jpeg files, but really that's not a good idea, because if I get a Jpeg file and I put that in the book and then I save each page as a Jpeg to use in an ebook, for instance, and the more you save JPEGs, the more times you save JPEGs, they can become pixelated again. So they start to lose some of their quality or their resolution. So it's best to avoid JPEGs if you can. PDFs they're usually fine, but it's a little harder to see what the resolution is for those PDFs. They may not be saved at 300 dpi, they may not be the right dimensions, and it's a little harder to find that out. Now, of course, a designer can figure that out, but InDesign is not so quick to show those. The best two formats are the original layered Photoshop file or a Tiff file. The Photoshop file and the Tiff file, you can have a layered file, and that allows the designer to move some elements around in the illustration if needed, and make some tweaks here and there to allow for text and just to balance it on the page and things like that. I always like to ask the illustrator for the layered Photoshop files. Some illustrators won't give that over, and I totally understand that. Even as a designer myself, I don't like to give over my InDesign files to my clients or my authors because that's considered intellectual property. But some illustrators will, and many of the illustrators that I work with will give me those files. Just talk with your illustrator, talk with your designer, and figure out what is the best solution. So I hope this video helps you to understand a little bit more what's available and what you need for your children's book when it comes to the illustration file formats. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. And if I can help you design your next children's book, be sure to reach out. If you're self-publishing children's books and this kind of content is needed, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell button. Go ahead and hit all the buttons down below and follow me along. I'll be sure to give you a lot more great advice and content for how to self-publish your next children's book.